My favourite dinosaur clade are the sauropods, and as for my second favourite, it's always been a fight between the ceratopsians and the hadrosaurids. While the bioplans for both are beautiful, there is something about the elegance and the simplicity of the hadrosaur form I find really attractive. When PNSO gave us their beautiful hadrosaurids, I was over the moon. And then for a long time, nothing. And when Haolonggood made its comeback, one of its earliest offerings was the long-neglected hadrosauriform Uranosaurus, and then again, nothing. Finally, we have another one from Haolonggood. The name Tlatolophus means word crest and comes from the Nahuatl word Tlatoli, which means speech, often understood to mean word because of the crest's resemblance to the Aztec glyph denoting speech. I believe this is the glyph they're referring to, and if I'm wrong, someone please correct me. The second part comes from the Greek lophos, meaning crest or hill. And I think you can see how similar the crest is to the glyph. And by the way, I have a strange habit of often saying Tlatolophus instead, so if I do mess up, you know what I mean. Tlatolophus was estimated, based on the holotype, to be about 8 meters, or 26.1 feet long. Now, this model measures 22 centimeters, or 8.7 inches, which for 1 to 35 means an animal about 7.7 meters, or 25.3 feet. So I think still pretty reasonable. And here's the Wonder Artistic models 1 to 35 humanoid. Now first, the color. Once again, it comes in 2 variants. The paint application in general is very good, as per Haolonggood's usual. But there is this white overlay of squiggly lines that Haolonggood insists on adding to many of their models. From some angles, it looks kind of okay, but in some areas, a bit too stark, and they spoil the effect somewhat. It actually looks better on the brown than the green, and just kind of gives me a kind of 画蛇添足 vibe, like trying to gild a lily and making it worse. I'd suggest just leaving it alone in future. Now besides that, a while ago, I remarked that some of Haolonggood's paint schemes were starting to look derivative. You can see that they are in fact very nearly the same as the Uranosaurus scheme, and I can't help but feel that just a simple change of the color palette itself would have added some variety. Now let's have the green one. Finding the head is really one of the little grails I tick off when I read a paper on some new dinosaur, and I sure ticked this off in the Tlatolophus paper. At this time, we have a rather complete skull, missing only the surangular and the quadrate bones. And for reference, these are the bones here, and I think they can be filled in reasonably enough. Now first, of course, you see that characteristic crest. I think you can see that our Haolonggood represents that form rather well, plus or minus some keratin. They even seem to have tried to follow the shape of the premaxillary margin and the dentary and predentary margin. Unfortunately, the premaxillar is too short and cut off, resulting in a very odd appearance to the profile here. This is accentuated by the lack of the traditional cheek pouch, which, to be honest, has always been a favourite aesthetic of mine in ornithischian dinosaurs. I think the colour you can appreciate at the same time. I wouldn't have minded a little bit more gaudiness a la Louis Ray, but I'm glad that this potential peacocking purpose is highlighted in a nice splash of colours, quite reminiscent of the PNSO Qingdaosaurus. As for the body, we have some postcranial material, but really the hadrosaurid bioplan is so similar across the board that we can always draw on other members of the clade to fill in. And as I said, it's really beautiful and elegant, especially when you consider how large the animal is. I love the quadrupedal form supported on two very differently sized limbs. You can see here the dappling of the white, which this time isn't as starkly applied as some of Haolonggood's other models, which always seems to interfere with an otherwise wonderfully painted canvas. And it's sad because the idea of dappling is actually a very nice one if handled better. Of interest are the hands, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with the Dakota mummy by now, showing a mitten-like hand with joined fingers. Here, however, Haolonggood has gone with the more traditional separated hand, which I actually don't mind since we only have the mitten in Edmontosaurus, and it's plausible that not all hadrosaurids had the same design. And I like the texture of these hooves, testifying to their use as a weight-bearing implement. Again, very dainty. Then the very powerful hind limbs. Now here I do find the ilium a tad too prominent. And it seems like there should be more muscle crossing the hip. This part more filled in by the iliotibialis muscles. Now the thighs. Just that signature detailing. For some reason, the detail on my green seems to be pretty blurred, with the brown variant a lot sharper. Perhaps as an artifact of the molding process, and hopefully it's just on my copy and not yours. And the legs. And to end in the three-toed foot, you see again those claws. Now a look at the underside. And finally, the tail. And very happily, the base of the tail is really thick, which is not something you always see. I just really like banded tails, as you know, and this one looks really good. Very subtle markings. Very smooth transitions. However, the tail does look to taper off too abruptly, and I would have liked to have seen a more gradual tapering in this area. And now a quick once-over of the other variant. This one is of course brown based and painted in a, shall we say, a more ordinary way. The conservative colours and patterns are still very nice though, and I know that some of you will prefer this. In general, I'd say that this is a little plainer than the green version. So just a once over of the head. Body, exactly the same mold, so the detail is equally good. Again, I wish they'd do away with these white lines. The arms. and the hind limbs. We have the underside. And finally, the tail. And I love the way the bands are done here. Alright, comparisons. Now first of all, we compare the two variants directly. Again, both are really very nicely done, though the green is a lot more vibrant. I actually prefer the green one. You can see both are done well in their respective ways. And the color does give you a slightly different feel, though both are still generally very muted in their coloration. Of course, we must look at Haolonggood's previous hadrosauriform, the Uranosaurus. This was, and still is, a very welcome model. And here I think you can immediately see what I mean about the similar color schemes. We have a green, white stripes, and an orange crest over here. It would be nice for Haolonggood to explore new color palettes in the future. And then what else? Well, the exciting thing for me is the phylogeny here, and how we actually now have a representative from each major branch. So most appropriate would be to look at the other branch of the tribe Parasaurolophini. And here's the Parasaurolophus. And then a member of the Lambeosaurini branch, and we have the beautiful Parasaurolophini. Of course, we can't forget the Parasaurolophus. I just love that color scheme and that reticulated pattern. We can even go to this branch here with a representative of the Tlatolophus tribe, the criminally undersized Parasaurolophus. Just look at the beauty of this model. And now finally, just another hadrosaur I'm sure many of you have, the wild safari at Montosaurus. And of course, our standard size comparators, the PNSO Wilson, and the PNSO Cameron. So that's it. Now, Haolonggood really are masters of herbivorous dinosaurs, so it's no surprise that this Tlatolophus is generally a good depiction of this very new dinosaur, except for an apparent deformity in the premaxilla and those white lines. I'm so very happy to once again have a hadrosaur, and in particular this rather significant dinosaur. This is truly a wonderful addition, and when I look at the beautiful hadrosaur bioplan represented in so many models, it really makes me very happy indeed. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next video.